The winter of 1887 brought a blizzard that buried Bear Hat Valley under snow so deep it erased every fence post and barn. Every cabin went dark and cold, except one. From Samuel Reeves' home, a steady golden light bled through the blizzard. Beside it, a second, thinner smoke seeped from a low lean-to, carrying the sharp, savory scent of curing meat.
I'll build the smokehouse right against the cabin wall. The low curing fire will radiate heat into the house.
You are going to smoke your family like a ham, Reeves. That's not a cabin. It's a meat locker.
Samuel, what if they're right? What if the smoke seeps through and we choke in our sleep?
The wall will be sealed tight, but the heat will pass through. One small fire, 2 jobs, trust me.
I've seen many a man try to cut corners, Reeves. That wall will either leak smoke, or it won't heat a thing. Don't gamble with your family.
Samuel didn't argue. He simply went back to his lumber, knowing that the truth would prove itself when the snow came. And so, as the valley laughed and the cold deepened, Samuel Reeves began to build his smokehouse. Samuel worked with a patient fury, building a stone and clay wall on the cabin's north side, mortar sealing every seam. He built a separate flue out the back so the smoke would bypass the house entirely. No fumes, only radiant warmth.
You are putting a lot of faith in stone and mortar, Reeves. If a crack forms, your whole house fills with smoke.
It won't crack. The wall is 3 feet thick, and I've packed every joint with clay and ash.
Men have burned in their beds for less. Think of your children, Samuel.
Hughes says it's a coffin, Samuel. I can't stop seeing the flames in my dreams.
There won't be flames in the house, Mary. The fire stays outside the wall, but the heat will come through like sun on stone.
And if it doesn't? If the smoke comes instead and we never wake up?
Then I'll tear it down myself. But until then, I need you to believe.
Mary stared at the half-finished wall and tried to imagine warmth instead of smoke. The doubt clung heavier than the coming frost. By the end of a hard week, the smokehouse stood complete, its slanted roof sealed against the coming snow. Samuel lit a handful of hickory twigs inside the fire pit, then closed the heavy door, watching the first thin smoke purse from the flue.
If I smell anything strange, I am taking the children outside, and we'll sit in the barn.
An hour passed. Mary pressed her palm flat against the stone. The surface was no longer cold. It was alive with a gentle, rising warmth.
Samuel, it's warm, really warm, and I can't smell a thing inside.
The fear in her voice had shifted, not to belief yet, but to something that made belief possible.
So Reeves finally lit his ham fire. I give it a week before the whole cabin smells like a pig shed or burns flat. You can't cheat the mountain with a hole in the wall. Winter'll find the smoke, and his family will be the ones paying.
But in the Reeves cabin, the shared wall radiated heat hour after hour, and the smokehouse kept curing meat without a single wisp of smoke leaking in.
Maybe this man of mine isn't as foolish as the whole valley thinks.
Week after week, the tiny smokehouse fire held, keeping the cabin warmer than any neighbors with half the wood.
Samuel, we've burned 1/3 less wood than last fall. The wall is doing exactly what you said.
While the valley still doubted, Samuel quietly stocked his racks with venison, the smoke thickening the meat day by day.
Reeves is still puffing smoke into his bedroom? My pigs live cleaner than his children, I swear.
His words spread through the trading post, and a crowd gathered when Samuel arrived for supplies.
There he is, the man who thinks a barn fire is fine living. How's that ham smell in your sheets, Reeves?
Warm, and the meat's curing faster than anything in your smokehouse, Carver.
You are a fool. First hard freeze, that contraption of yours will crack and kill your whole family.
You've said your piece. I'll take my chances.
He never rises to their bait. He just keeps working. That might be the thing I love most.
One gray afternoon, Elder Hughes made his way to the Reeves cabin, his walking stick tapping the frozen earth like a slow warning.
Reeves, I've come to see this wall for myself, not from the gossip at the trading post.
Come in, Elder. Feel it.
Hughes placed his weathered hand flat against the stone, and the steady warmth surprised him into a long silence.
It holds true. I didn't expect that.
The fire is small, but the wall stores the heat, like a banked stove that never goes out.
A small fire won't fight a blizzard that lasts 10 days. What then, Reeves?
Samuel showed him the flue's clean path behind the stone, sealed so tightly that not a wisp could stray into the house.
You've built it solid. I'll grant that. But if the storm seals your flue, you'll suffocate.
Hughes left with a troubled brow, carrying the weight of a warning the whole valley would soon need to hear. That night, Samuel could not sleep. Hughes's warning had burrowed deep, and he knew what the old man meant. A storm was coming that would test more than stone.
Tomorrow, I am reinforcing the smokehouse roof and stocking more meat. If a bad freeze hits, we can't run to the trading post.
Over the next week, Samuel doubled the roof beams, lashed the flue with tarred rope, and packed every seam with fresh clay. Inside the smokehouse, his larder swelled with rows of venison quarters and pork sides, enough to last until spring if the fire never went out.
Samuel, you are preparing like we're expecting a siege. It's just winter.
Maybe, but I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and have nothing.
Reeves is stacking meat like he's Noah filling the ark. What's he expecting? A flood of snow.
The valley heard and laughed along. Most families had a few cords of wood and a salted ham, and they called it enough.
They'll learn. They'll all learn, or they won't. Either way, I will keep my family warm.
And so the Reeves cabin stood, quietly ready, while the rest of Bear Hat Valley went to bed each night, trusting that winter would be mild. When the first true heavy snow of the season buried the valley overnight, the Reeves woke to a cabin that needed no stoking.
Samuel, this is the first snowfall we haven't shivered through. I don't know how you thought of it.
I just looked at what we had and asked what else it could do.
A mile away, Anthony Carver's cabin was a different story. His firewood was green, and the cold had crept in before dawn.
This fire won't catch. The wood's frozen solid. How does Reeves keep his shack warm with a thumb-sized flame?
That evening, the Reeves family gathered for dinner by the warm wall, a rich ham steak on every plate from their own smokehouse.
It's the best winter we've had since we came here. I am almost afraid to say it out loud.
Enjoy it. We've earned a little comfort.
But as the temperature kept dropping through the night, the easy winter began to feel like a rehearsal for something far worse. And across the valley, people started to notice that the Reeves weren't splitting wood like everyone else. While the valley whispered, Anthony Carver's resentment festered into something colder. Every log he split in the freezing wind made him angrier at Reeves's easy warmth.
He's not smarter than me. That wall's a trick, and it'll kill him yet.
At the trading post, their paths crossed again. Anthony stepped into the snow to block Samuel's way.
Reeves, people are saying your cabin heats itself. That wall's a clogged flue away from burning them alive.
I've checked it 3 times a day since the first snow, Carver. There's no clog.
You check all you want, a strong wind blows wrong, and your house fills with smoke. You are gambling, not building.
A small crowd halted their errands, waiting for the crack that would turn words into worse.
You've made your point. Now I'll make mine. I have nothing to prove to you.
And he walked away, leaving Anthony standing alone, fists clenched against the cold. The sky over Bear Hat Valley turned to iron at noon. Then the first hard flakes whipped sideways like shards of glass. By the time the storm hit full force, Samuel was already in the smokehouse, feeding the tiny fire beneath his hanging meat. He closed the damper to a whisper and listened. The flue drew cleanly, and the wall held every degree of heat.
Samuel, that wind sounds like it wants to tear the house apart.
It'll scream all night, but feel the wall, Mary. It's warmer than it's ever been.
Still warm. Steady as a heartbeat. The fire is tiny, but the stone doesn't lie.
The children slept through it, tucked in blankets, while the wall kept the frost at bay.
It's working. All this time, you were right.
I just listened to the stone. It told me what to do.
While the valley buckled, the Reeves cabin held firm, warmed by a fire too small to matter, and a wall that had finally proved its worth. On the second morning, the blizzard still howled. Samuel pulled on his coat and fought through the snow to check the smokehouse. The fire flickered low but true. The meat hung untouched, and the flue drew the smoke away, as if the storm didn't exist. He returned to the cabin, where Mary had bundled the children by the warm wall, their faces peaceful despite the roaring outside.
They slept through the night, Samuel. I kept expecting the cold to creep in, but it never did.
The wall is holding. But out there, I don't know how the others are managing.
Through the frosted glass, the valley was a white void. But Samuel knew that in the distance, firewood was running out. A mile south, the Holloway family huddled in the dark. Their last log burned to ash, frost forming on their blankets. The wind muffled every cry. But the Reeves could feel the valley's suffering, pressing against their walls.
If anyone comes knocking, we'll open the door. But I don't know if they can reach us through this.
And so they waited, wrapped in a warmth that felt almost cruel against the frozen silence outside. The blizzard raged into a third day. The wind so fierce it stripped snow from the ground and hurled it into new drifts.
The wall is almost hot. That tiny fire is keeping the cabin so warm we could house twice as many souls.
Lord, if you are listening, give the others a hunter's luck. Let them find dry wood and a shelter that won't collapse.
A pounding on the door cut through the wind. 3 heavy thuds. Then a voice cracked and barely human. Samuel threw open the door, and the blizzard spilled in as Elder Hughes collapsed across the threshold.
Reeves, my fire's dead. The cold. Please.
You are inside now. Mary, get the blankets. The wall will warm him.
Mary wrapped the old man in wool, and Samuel pressed his frozen hands against the warm stone until they stopped shaking.
He's the first, Samuel. There will be more.
And so the first knock opened. Not just a door, but a question that would define the days to come. Who else could they save? Mary lifted a slab of smoked ham from the larder and pressed it into Hughes's trembling hands.
I called this wall a coffin. Now it's the only reason I am still breathing.
Before Hughes could swallow, another fist hammered the door, then another, until the wood buckled under the weight of desperation. Samuel pulled it open, and a dozen hollow-eyed neighbors stumbled through, frost clinging to their faces.
Come close to the wall. There's enough meat for everyone tonight.
Night came, and the cabin swelled with shivering bodies, pressing against the stone like it was a mother's hearth.
12 souls now. If the meat runs out before the thaw, this warmth won't matter.
They keep coming, Samuel. How many can we save before we starve ourselves?
As many as the wall can warm. The fire hasn't failed yet.
But in the dark, Samuel counted every breath and prayed the smokehouse would hold. In the howling dark, Samuel slipped into the smokehouse and counted every slab of hanging meat by the dim glow of the embers.
Enough for a week if I ration hard. But 3 more mouths showed up yesterday, and the storm won't break.
You've been staring at that wall all night. Samuel, what is it?
The meat, if more come, will be scraping the bones before the thaw.
So we turn someone away?
Number. The wall hasn't failed, and I won't be the one to send a soul out to freeze. We'll all share what we have.
He went back to the smokehouse and laid a single dry log on the coals, then closed the damper until the fire was a whisper.
He's staking our lives on a pile of rocks. But I've never seen him wrong about this wall.
So when the next desperate knocking came, Samuel pulled the door open without a pause and waved the frozen shapes inside. In the dense, warm dark, the refugees slept on, not knowing that their survival rested on a fire the size of a bread loaf. On the 4th morning, a dark shape clawed through the drifting snow, collapsing a few yards from the cabin door. Anthony Carver crawled the final steps, his beard caked with ice, a useless frozen sack slung over his back.
Reeves, I can't. Open up.
The pounding was so weak. Samuel thought it was the wind, until Mary flung open the door.
Get him in, Samuel. He's nearly frozen.
That man wanted this wall to kill my family. Now he's begging at the same stone.
For a long breath, Samuel stood frozen as the blizzard poured past him. Then he stooped and dragged Anthony inside.
Come on, you old fool. The wall won't bite.
She wrapped his hands around a warm mug and pressed them flat against the stone until the color returned. Anthony slumped against the wall, silent but alive, cocooned in the warmth he'd spent a season ridiculing. Anthony came to with the smell of smoked meat and the weight of a blanket over his shoulders.
Eat. It's from the smoke you called a joke.
He took the bowl in shaking hands and swallowed a mouthful, then another, until his bravado crumbled with the steam.
I called it a ham house. I said you'd kill your family, and here I am, eating your meat alive because of this wall.
Words don't matter now. Come see what kept you alive.
He led Anthony into the small, dark room, where a single split log burned in a bed of ash, and rows of cured meat hung motionless above.
This fire is no bigger than a loaf of bread. It heats the stone, and the stone heats the cabin. Not a spark of smoke leaks inside.
Anthony knelt and placed his hand near the fire, feeling the dry heat pour into the wall, not past it.
All those months, I was wrong. This isn't madness. It's the smartest thing I've ever seen.
Samuel said nothing. He simply closed the damper another quarter turn and let the silence hold the moment.
Take an extra slice for your children. The smokehouse is still hanging meat, and we'll slice again tomorrow.
The blizzard screamed beyond the walls, but inside, the stone held, and 23 souls had stopped counting the hours. Samuel fed the fire a single dry splinter, closing the damper to a thread. Fat dripped from the ham.
Tell me what to do, Samuel. I'll tend the fire for a while. I owe you that much.
You are safe now, Elder. The worst will pass, and we'll see the sun again. Just stay close to the wall.
The children slept, heads on strangers' coats, and the wall glowed like a banked sun. No one asked for more wood.
You were right, Samuel. This wall is the reason we're all still breathing.
Outside, the temperature kept falling, but the fire in the smokehouse burned steady as a heartbeat.
I used to mock this ham. Now I am serving it. Funny how a blizzard teaches a man.
The storm would break when it chose. But in the Reeves cabin, the one fire kept burning. On the 5th morning, the wind died so suddenly that the silence felt louder than the storm. A pale blue light returned to the world. Samuel shoved the door open against a wall of snow and staggered into the daylight. Both chimneys still carried thin curls of smoke.
Samuel, look, the smokehouse is still alive. We made it.
Behind her, the cabin door opened again, and a stream of hollow-eyed survivors poured into the snow, blinking at the light.
Reeves built a wall that defied the worst storm in valley memory. I called it a coffin. Now I see he built a sanctuary.
Across the valley, other families crawled out from frozen cabins and saw the rise of smoke, a beacon they followed through the drifts. They came in 3s and 4s, and when they saw the warm-lit windows, a sound between a laugh and a sob broke from the crowd.
Come closer to the wall. The fire is small, but the stone holds.
And as the valley counted its dead, the Reeves' smokehouse kept curing, one tiny fire still doing 2 jobs, while the world thawed around it.
No one will ever call it a ham house again. This valley owes its survival to a pile of rocks and a man who listened.
Inside his own butcher shop, where he'd laughed loudest, Anthony Carver faced the crowd that gathered to hear the proof.
I was wrong. Wrong about the wall, wrong about Reeves. That smokehouse saved my life and 20 others while I laughed.
A murmur rippled through the shop. Men who'd nodded at his jokes now watched him kneel.
You don't need to kneel, Carver. Just remember what the stone can do.
I'll give you half my remaining stock, Reeves. Every pig and cow I have left. It's all I can offer.
Keep your livestock. Let others hear the truth, and we'll call it square. And we'll call it square.
Samuel's quiet answer hit harder than any angry rebuke. The crowd saw a man who'd never needed their praise.
I'll tell every rancher from here to the pass what you've built. They'll all know by spring.
And so the butcher, who once mocked the ham house, became its loudest advocate, his shame a stronger argument than any sermon.
Then go tell them. The wall will speak for itself.
Within a week, men arrived at the Reeves door not to mock, but to measure. They wanted to see the stone that held the heat.
This is no trick, Jeb. Step inside and learn. Reeves will show you how the flue runs behind the stone.
The damper keeps the draft steady. Close it to a crack, and the fire barely breathes, but the stone still drinks the warmth.
This larder fed 3 families for a week, and still didn't run dry. All from that tiny fire you just saw.
The farmers ran their hands over the stone, felt the heat without the smoke, and began asking about mortar and ash.
Use clay and ash for the joints, not lime. It's slower to set, but it won't crack in the freeze.
As Samuel explained, a rancher pulled out a stubby pencil and began scratching on a plank, a smokehouse, snug against the cabin.
He never wanted praise. He just wanted a warm house. Looks like the whole valley will have one now.
I called it a death trap. I was wrong. This is the future of winter building, and we owe it all to a man who didn't listen to fear.
And so the Reeves door stayed open, no longer for refugees, but for builders with questions and shovels on their shoulders. The snows broke late that year, and when the melt finally came, the creek ran loud enough to wake the dead. Across the valley, new stone walls rose beside cabins. Anthony Carver hired a mason and built his own smokehouse flush against his shop, the mortar still wet when he lit his first cure. Elder Hughes passed by the Reeves place and paused at the well, his old walking stick silent in the mud.
I've lived 63 winters, and I almost let pride freeze me. That man taught me more than a dozen sermons.
Inside, Samuel sat on the bench by the warm wall, Mary beside him. Neither spoke for a long, easy while.
You never doubted, did you?
Doubt doesn't build walls. Faith does.
The wall hummed with the heat of the tiny fire next door, as it would every night from then on, steady as a sleeping child's breath. And so the Reeves farm became the quiet center of a valley that had finally learned to listen to stone. The ham house joke was dead. In its place, a dozen chimneys smoked against the brightening mountain sky. Spring softened into summer, and strange faces appeared at the trading post, drawn by tales that had crossed the passes. Trappers and teamsters asked for the Reeves place, wanting to see the wall that did two jobs with one fire. Samuel heard the talk but kept his routine, up before dawn to feed the fire.
I didn't think of it. I just listened to the cold and asked what the stone could do.
The answer was simple, but men scribbled it into their notebooks as if copying a scripture. Inside the smokehouse, his hands moved in the old rhythm. A single split log, the damper closed just so. The flame burned the same. The wall gave no more heat. It didn't need to. The new smokehouses belonged to the valley now, as if they'd always been part of winter.
I never wanted to be remembered. I just wanted a cabin that stayed warm.
But the mountains remember everything, and the smoke that rose each morning from the Reeves homestead told a quiet truth that needed no monument. On the first true dawn of spring, Samuel woke to find the smokehouse walls still faintly warm from the night's low fire. He stepped onto the porch, and Mary followed, pulling her shawl tight against the cool morning air.
The smokehouse is still breathing, just like it has since the storm.
It will breathe as long as we need it to.
They stood together and watched the column of smoke rise straight into the still sky. Below them, the valley was greening, and from a dozen other cabins, identical plumes rose. But the first smoke, the original plume, belonged only to this house. Samuel felt the wall's heat through the stone as he passed it, a heartbeat that had never faltered. The children's laughter drifted from inside, and Mary squeezed his hand, and the one fire, small as a loaf of bread, kept burning.